Welcome to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Mendte. I'm so glad to have our next guest with us. He is the former mayor of Atlantic City. He is the current business administrator of Toms River. Don Guardian, thank you so much.
Very great to be back on Jersey Matters. I think a couple of years ago, we were talking about dealing with turkeys in Atlantic City, and I'm guessing today we're going to be talking about turkeys migrating to Toms River.
Much different turkeys, much more dangerous turkeys in Atlantic City, I would imagine, but I'll get to the turkeys in a minute. You are now a business administrator. You used to be a mayor. What does a business administrator do?
Sure. So in Toms River, you serve as the chief operating officer, and so as council has issues or the mayor, you take care of them. We have about 500 employees in Toms River. They would all report to the business administrator.
What do you deal with on a daily basis?
So Toms River is much more middle class than Atlantic City was. So the questions are, there's a house that's abandoned next door, what's going on with it? There's someone that doesn't have a permit in the window, but they're building. Someone is putting up a fence. I didn't see any permission for them to do that. There's sand on the boardwalk. There's leaves in the street. The trash hasn't been picked up. There's a pothole. I see them paving. When is my street going to get paved?
This all sounds horrible. Getting these type of emails and phone calls on a daily basis, how many do you get?
About 100, maybe 150 texts and emails.
And you have to deal with each
basis.
one of these things?
Well, I have a secretary, and she's reviewing my emails as well. And often, if it's simple enough, she's just going to send it to the department head that can fix that problem.
Do you like this job better than Atlantic City?
Oh, I actually love it. It's wonderful. I'm in Mayberry, and it's 1965. It's quite a transition.
Did you deal with these same problems in Atlantic City?
People had so many other concerns that a lot of the smaller issues didn't come up. You hit them on a civic association where they would raise the questions that I just mentioned in Toms River, but on a day-to-day basis, more serious. There was a shooting in my neighborhood. My son's coming back from county for the third time. Is there a reentry program so he doesn't go back? We never got to finish high school. How can I get my GED? Because I can't get a job. I'd like to get into a program. I understand I have a substance abuse problem, but I don't have insurance. The gas company is shutting off my heat. That's
a strong dose of perspective.
That's very urban New Jersey, and Toms River is very suburban.
Yeah, and are you happy with where you are right now?
I'm very happy.
You don't want to go back to Atlantic City?
I didn't say that, but I'm very happy where I am right now.
Let me push you on that in a second. I will push you on that in a second, but let's go to the turkeys that we were talking about.
Sure.
I mean, I don't want to make light of it because it sounds like it's a serious problem. How many complaints are you getting about turkeys in Toms River?
So actually, we never received a complaint from any resident until they called a couple of newspapers and radio stations and TV stations, and then we really read the first complaints from the media. That's how we found out.
You sound like you're
it.
saying this isn't a real problem, that it's press concocted.
No. I never take on the press. That's very foolish to
well, that's what when you're saying you didn't get any complaints.
We did.
It all came from radio stations.
Right.
And
so individuals didn't call the township to solve the problem. They called the media, thinking they would help.
A lot of them, or is just a couple?
Half a dozen or so, I think. But what it did is raise the question. So the overall point is wild turkeys were exhausted before the Civil War. It wasn't until 1977 that wild turkeys were reintroduced to New Jersey. I think up in the Delaware Water Gap area, it's been very successful. The reentry, there's 25,000 wild turkeys now. If they're in the wild, if they're in a wooded area, if they're in farmland, there's no problem. It's when they encroach into suburban areas that the problem exists. So they're on people's lawn, they're lodged.
Is it or is it not a serious problem?
It's not a serious problem. It can be easily dealt with.
Do you think this is a case of unintended consequences? They wanted to protect the turkeys, and now the turkeys are overpopulating New Jersey now?
Absolutely. No, yes, that's exactly what happened.
And do you think that has to be taken care of? Are we to the point now where we have to do something about the population of turkeys?
When they encroach on suburban areas, the answer is yes. There's already a bow and arrow season. It ended already. It ends
They should increase that? They should
probably and relocate them where they're not going to be dealing with suburban homes.
If relocating is not the answer, because relocating is going to still cause a population problem. They're still going to encroach on the area.
But the Pine Barrens would be a good location where there's few people, or up in the National Water water gap preserve would seem to be a logical choice for them. I think what happens is people feed wild animals. Just the same problem you have with Canadian geese. And so they come where they're being fed. They're not foolish.
All right, let's get back to Atlantic City now.
Sure.
Some things have happened since you've left.
They have.
And it seems like the old Atlantic City is back. In the string of mayors, and I'm not being facetious when I say this, in the string of mayors over the last couple of decades, how many have been arrested?
Well, I think 6 have been removed from office. Some have been indicted but have not been convicted. Some have been convicted.
Yeah, I've faced criminal charges. That's really an indictment on the city, isn't it?
It is.
And you weren't.
No, I
you
was
were
not.
clean. You
Yes.
were well liked. I remember being down there. You did a good job. Is there a longing to have you back now?
Certainly everywhere I go, people asking when am I coming back. But I think I served a good purpose during the 4 years. The city was $100 million in debt annually and then $600 million in debt long term. So it was as simple as this. We had to cut $40 million from the budget annually. We had to get $40 million from the state annually, and the casinos needed to pony up $40 million.
Without taking any of it, which is not the Atlantic City way normally. So
those 3 things happened, and so we had a balanced budget. If I had returned my first year, I was pretty excited because we went from $262 million to $222 million as a budget for the city, but I knew that we would not have to pay tax appeals the following year.
The detractors would say about
million.
you were there,
Yeah.
you were the mayor when the state took over Atlantic City.
That is correct. You could say that the state had sent a monitor in years before I got there, but the actual takedown of Atlantic City
Do you see
occurred.
that as a failure?
Yes. Yeah, I do. What was done, it could have been done without the state takeover. There could have been a more cooperative program. Ultimately, the state had to pony up $40 million, which they did.
Well, that's interesting. So you
eventually.
see it as a failure, but not on your part.
Yes.
You see it as a failure on your predecessor's part and on the state.
I do. And Chris Christie, it was a tough, he sent in a group that was just there to cut costs at any price. He didn't care whether or not you couldn't put out fires. That was literally. And then I think as Phil became governor, he's trying to work together, but I think he realized the leadership was not in place for him to have a comfort zone. And so he sent out in people, but in the last 2 years, they're trying to help Atlantic City. And I think it's just an exit strategy now of when they're going to leave.
Do you want to be mayor of Atlantic City again?
I don't think so. I'm very happy in Toms River. I was thrilled to be mayor of Atlantic City. I would have liked to serve the second term, but I didn't get reelected.
Are people contacting you to run?
Yes.
And what have you told them? Just what you told me?
Just what I told you.
Because you haven't given me a definitive no.
I didn't.
And you didn't give them a definitive no.
And that's correct.
So it's still a possibility.
Anything's a possibility in life. Right now, I have a wonderful relationship with the people that I work for in Toms River. I think it's mutual, and I think they'd be heartbroken if I walked away.
Thank you, sir. Always appreciate it.
Thank
Thanks
you very
for
much,
coming
Larry.
in. Don Guardian, Toms River business administrator and the former and maybe future mayor of Atlantic City. We'll be back after this. Still to come on Jersey Matters, it was a stunning defeat for Airbnb in Jersey City. So what does the future hold for short-term rentals? We'll take a look when we come back.